Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine.
Welcome, everyone, to Morning Magazine for this November 2nd, 2022. It is 11:06 on the clock, and you got your host, James J. Maloff here. I am joined today by the Wood County Sheriff's Department. We have our good friend, Sheriff Shawn Becker, in with us. Good morning, Shawn.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
And Mike Weiberg is in with us. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. Mike, if you wouldn't mind turning that to you, thank you for that. And, of course, we want to say hello to Taylor and our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. Always appreciate you guys being here. Some great work you guys do over there. Thank you for the time. There is plenty to talk about. Before we get to all of that, I want to catch up, see how you guys are doing. Sheriff, how have you been?
Good. Good. You know, it seems like life just goes by way too fast. But
Yeah.
No, things are going good. Got through Halloween weekend. I think I've talked about it before. I've got awesome neighbors, and everybody likes to decorate their yards and house and whatnot for Christmas. Well, now it's got into Halloween, so everybody's been really amping up their game for Halloween now, and I'm trying to keep up, but it's been a losing battle. And financially, I just can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. I got to put the line down somewhere, or my wife does. Julie says, "No, that's enough. You're not ordering that." I'm like, "What?"
The 20-foot skeleton. Just, it's a little bit out of the price range sometimes.
My sister-in-law got one from Home Depot, and I saw that, and I didn't pull the trigger on it right away, and she did, and I'm like, But the blow-ups, the stuff. But it was a great evening. Law enforcement wise, we didn't have many issues or calls to service, which is great to see. And then the neighborhood that we live in, we had well over 150 kids trick or treating. So it's just nice to see the families out and the kids. Some were kind of grown-ups that were trick-or-treating. I don't know if it was just candy they were looking for. But
I apologize for that.
That was a great costume, James.
Thank you.
You threw me right there. But no, otherwise, family's good. Just celebrated a birthday for me. Last Friday, went up north and hung out with my daughter Jordan and her husband, and we had a great time.
Good to hear. Wanted to say two things. One, happy belated birthday,
Thank you.
And congrats on a great season at LHS. Great football season. I know we wanted to end differently, but a great season nonetheless.
Yeah, no, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it last month. Feel bad for the seniors. At the end of the game, we just didn't have a good second half, and it's emotional. Playing football in high school, and you have that last game. It's done. And it goes by so fast. But great group of kids. I know a good handful of them are going to move on and try out in college football, so their careers aren't done. But for some it is, and they just have to go back, and as you move through life, reflect on the season and the friends that you made throughout that time. It's something that from my experience. I never forgot it. Still think about it. Probably once a week or so, or maybe more.
My senior class had Neville, Marks, and Mancuso in it, and those guys. It reminds me a little bit of this class where those kids. I could see those kids getting some of them getting scholarships and things like that. You just don't know. But a great season. Yeah.
So did you go to school with Jimmy? Yeah, great kid. His father, who was a really good close friend of mine, Gus. He's my campaign manager, and just a great person. And Jimmy's a great guy. He came back and did a pregame speech to the kids before the back-to-badge game against Menominee, and he had just a heck of a message for the kids. To bring just some good points to bring up on what I just said. It's high school football, and you're a senior. Any athlete, your senior year, it's got to be something special, and that was really hit home by Jimmy. Great man, and he's a detective in lacrosse, and he's doing awesome work there.
You mentioned Halloween, pretty good, decent Halloween overall in the city.
Yeah, I always judge things on the phone calls that I get, and I didn't get any. So the concerns, I'm sure, we had a few calls of service, but overall, for us locally, it was a safe Halloween, and
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Mike, I want to ask how you're doing, and we'll talk more, of course, later. But how you been? It's been a while.
Great. Yep. Excellent.
So, good to hear. Very good to hear. Thanks for being here, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He talks a lot. Mike, we're going to turn the show over to you now. So
we are definitely going to put the Mike's mic on in a moment here. More so, actually. But I got to admit, you guys, we talk in our pregame before the show here always, and we were talking about things, and the sheriff mentioned a grant program that you guys just got, and it's all it's all in my brain now. Airboat, like it's all I can think about is what an airboat is. I've never driven one. I want to drive one. I want to know more about them.
Maybe we can do a fundraiser for that once we get it. Just to back up a little bit, Mike is one of my best friends and has been part of the rescue unit for I think you're almost at 30 years.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
27.
It's a volunteer organization that Wood County has had for many, many years. I mean, these are all strictly volunteers, and they're out 24/7. They're available for call for whether it's a car accident, a search and rescue mission. They continually train every week, and just a great group of individuals that I'm so proud of that they're part of our Sheriff's Department team. We've had some ups and downs, but now lately it just shows with this grant that we'll talk about from Legacy, that community support.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few years ago that rescue was cut, and then it came back because of the community support, the outpouring support, not only from members in our department, but just in the community that came and talked to the county board. And it didn't take long for them to say, no, we need this volunteer rescue unit. And Mike and the whole rescue unit since then have done just an outstanding job of not just only in the community outreach in Southwood County, but the entire county. Because that was a complaint that some of the other places in the county, towards Marshfield or other areas, northern part of what do we get out of rescue? I mean, there is a budget for rescue. Well, we're working on that, but it's still taxpayer money, and what do we get out of it? And Mike and the leadership team have done an outstanding job, reaching out to the other fire departments outside of the response area that they respond to, and developed a strong working relationship. And since that time frame of we've been doing that, they've been called to other areas that they normally don't do, because we can go anywhere. They can go anywhere to help out in any type of situation that they need. And getting in the grant, they applied for a legacy grant for an airboat, and they got it. It's an $80,000 grant for this boat, and it's going to be utilized all throughout the year. Whether it's winter or summer months, it's going to fit very nicely with our operations to show that we can respond to other emergencies, whether it's an ice rescue or something. But it's again, it just goes back to getting a local grant from Legacy. They look at things locally that they can help sustain, and this was awesome. That individuals wrote the grant from Rescue, and I'm so proud to say that we got it. And thank you, a huge thank you to Rescue. To Legacy for giving us this opportunity to, bottom line, help save lives.
For decades, our departments, sheriff, police, fire departments have worked with less and have made do with less, and have figured out a way to, okay, well, we don't have this device or we don't have this vehicle, but we'll work around it and make this makeshift or what have you. I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago, maybe less than that, we started to kind of put a little bit more investment into our departments. And then, of course, there's been some recent, obviously, in the last 5 years or so, some talk about that, and we're not going to get into that or anything. But and we can if you want to, but just to stay in the topic, stay in the lane here a little bit. Something like this, an airboat. Now, I'm not going to ask if this is something you necessarily need, because you guys have been working without one for so long. But how can this really be a benefit, a plus to our community, to the safety of our community?
I'll defer to Mike a little bit, but to start out the bat, it's going to give us an opportunity to save lives. I mean, we have situations all throughout the year that we deal with, and this gives us another opportunity to help people. If there's a situation that we just can't get to, whether it's thin ice or something along those lines, and we'll be able to do that. All right.
Honestly, if you had said we save lives, this will help save lives, we could have stopped right there. That'd have been enough for me as a taxpayer. That'd have been enough for me to be like, okay, that sounds good. Let's move on. I want to keep continuing about it because airboat. I want to talk about this. It sounds awesome, and certainly the serious stuff that we should get to. But honestly, it's one of those things where. So many things that different departments and other fields have done this too, but especially our government departments that have had to kind of make much of less. The fact that we can do something like this, it seems pretty like A equals B equals C here. Let's go ahead and make this happen. It's great to hear that the grant's gone on, and it sounds like by next year we might have this?
Yes. Okay. The builder is slating maybe end of February, early March, it should be completed. Obviously, there's material shortages. Yeah. We placed the order, we put a down deposit on the boat. Now, they have to, aluminum, stainless steel, that kind of stuff. Now we're at the mercy of the supply chain. But they're going forward with it, ordered radio, lights, all that kind of stuff. So the early projection is probably sometime in March it should be here.
Mike, first up, just to piggyback off of what Sheriff Becker was saying before, thank you so much for all you're putting into the community and the work you've done over the decades and everything. It's greatly appreciated. And I also want to pull off of that experience a little bit. I imagine you can think of moments in your career, if you don't mind me calling it that, that you could have used something like this. There are a number of scenarios. You don't have to give me details necessarily, but off the top of your head, can you think of a number of scenarios where this would have been really beneficial to have?
Sure. We've had body recovery down by Nakusa, where we had to call the DNR airboat in, which came, I'm not sure, I guess they only have a couple in the state. Yeah. So it took a day to get here. Evidence recovery they just had this summer, where it was just shallow enough water you couldn't walk it, not deep enough for a boat. They had to lower the water down with a dam. Well, an airboat maybe got in there. It has a sacrificial skid plate underneath it, so you can go over. Literally, you can go over rocks, down asphalt if you want to, over grass, over land is pretty much. And then when that gets thin, you just replace that. So it'd be very. It's just areas that you can't. And thin ice, ice, not like 24 inches of ice, but guys go out ice fishing or whatever, and then somebody falls through, or a family pet or something, where we can get to it safely and recover it with this airboat.
Just even, I know it's not here yet, but just knowing that this is around the corner already makes me feel good. Like already, this is a great feeling. This is a really cool thing to be thinking about. Especially, I thought of thin ice right away when you guys brought this up, but I did not think about when you don't have one and having to borrow one from the DNR or something like that. That means the DNR doesn't have it. That means that it's here doing this job and it's not able to do another job for them or something like that. And that's the case with a lot of these things, but not being in that world, I wouldn't think of that all the time. And when you're a taxpayer and you're listening to this stuff, and sometimes all anybody hears is, oh, is this going to cost me this? Is this going to cost me that? And they don't think about the advantages that a thing can bring. There's a reason that taxes exist. There's a reason that these things are around. Now, I'm not trying to bring up taxes to associated with this item in particular, but that's the first thing people usually think of, even if it's not related to the subject. So hearing that from somebody who is actually walking that world and everything, that's very important, I think. I could ramble all day about how great airboats are. Coming from you guys is what really matters. Right. So it does sound like something. Now, do you think that this is something that other communities are going to look into too, you guys? Because I can't imagine we're the only ones in need of something like this.
Well, it's a good point. Will be available for other communities on mutual aid.
I didn't even think about that part of it. I was thinking of other people buying one. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Wausau Fire Department has one. I don't know if Portage County, they used to. I don't believe they have, but will be available. This won't be exclusive to Wood County. If there's a situation that comes up, within the response area, central Wisconsin, we'll go. And that happens quite frequently. Depending on who has certain equipment, we share those resources. And that's why I've always said it is extremely important to work with, not only your other law enforcement agencies that surround you, but the entire state, the federal level, all that. Those strong relationships pay dividends when you have a situation come up where you need the personnel to help, or the equipment. The DNR, like Mike had just mentioned, they have a lot of outstanding equipment that we've called on them to come up, whether it's evidence recovery or something along those lines. They're there. This is just going to give us the opportunity for a response time a lot quicker, and that's nothing against any other law enforcement agency or fire department. It's just going to give us the opportunity to have this central Wisconsin. If a situation comes up, and one of the things that came to mind that Mike just brought up, not only people but a pet. And I know early on in my career, not in our county but another county, a dog went through the ice, and I won't say what happened, but some people refused to respond to it, and I looked at it. Well, that would be, in my opinion, a rescue mission. And then you take a look at the equipment that you have available, and you try. I get you don't want to put a person's life in jeopardy, but there also is the opportunity with the equipment that you have to try to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want people to think that we need to risk our lives for an animal. But if we have the equipment, such as this airboat and other equipment, why not respond and try? So that's part of this.
I agree. I think you worded it perfectly, sir. Because honestly, I think most of us can relate to exactly what you were saying there. We love animals. We want to do everything we can for an animal. It doesn't mean that we're putting animals above people or at the same level or something like that. If worst comes to worst, the decision has to be made. We're going to choose human life over an animal life. That's understandable. I would hope to think to most people. Yeah. But we're also talking about people with animals, because more than likely that is a household pet, and there are kids that love that animal, or parent or adults that love that animal. By saving that animal, we just don't know how much that impacts a family, how much that can help a family. It's important to do if doable. But having an airboat like this, that makes this so much safer for the people doing the rescuing. And that's something that we've touched on with the jail a lot, but we haven't been able to do that very much in other categories, in other areas, sir. So I think that's a really interesting topic, and really something that I'd like to, I don't know, we don't spend the whole show talking about it, but that's something I think as a citizen, we need to think more of. We need to be more conscious of. I feel like we've done a good job in society of talking about all things when it comes to this subject. Some stuff a little bit more muddier than others, but overall, conversations are being had. And that, for me, more times than not, is a good thing. We get things clear the air, we get things out in the open, all of our cards on the table, this kind of thing. This is how society can move on. And you and I have talked ad nauseum about this. Oh, yeah. But when it comes to some things, some of us, no matter how empathetic we are, how much we know, we are still learning. We're still figuring out, I didn't think about that part of things. I didn't worry about the guy with the bulletproof vest safety. He's got the vest. What did I got to worry about? Well, first off, a bulletproof vest only covers the chest. Right. But more importantly, it's important to look deeper than that. And to remind yourselves that anybody wearing a badge, anybody putting on a fireman's hat, an EMT, all these are citizens. These are people just like us. They're no different than us. You need to put yourself in those shoes more often than not to understand that world. We ask our law enforcement to do that for citizens all the time. Hey, you guys, you know what it's like. You've been in this spot, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. It has to go both ways. And I think topics like this, as silly as it may seem, talking about an airboat brings us closer to that world, closer to talking about this stuff and having more empathy embedded in our society.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Do you want to talk to Mike next, or where do you want to go next, sir?
Just a real quick thing to shout out to Wisconsin Rapids Police Department.
Mike just kicking the can. Just kicking the can. I can talk later. Right?
No, we'll come back to you. Don't worry. A shout out to Wisconsin Rapids Police Department hosting Trunk or Treat again. Herman Alvarez reached out, and I heard it was just an awesome event. Very, very successful. We had some of our members, some of our team members there. James Pigeon with their K9 was there, and heard it went over very, very well. So a big shout out to Wisconsin Rapids PD and continuing that community event that they've been doing several years. So thank you for putting that together for family and kids. I always continue to bring up the jail, but we did have the groundbreaking ceremony.
Wanted to ask how that went.
Went great. Taylor, thank you for being there and taping everything. It was very cold. But I was quite surprised with the community turnout. Very proud of it. Got the opportunity to speak along with, the mayor from Marshfield. Our mayor here in Wisconsin, Rapids, Shane, had a really nice speech, and I can't say enough, positive and supportive things for both of both those mayors for taking the opportunity to be there, and especially Shane, having, his leadership and the city council, they're a part of this, and everybody's a part of it, but, with the permitting and variances and things like that, they had a big part of, moving forward the project, and, I am very, very thankful and grateful for their leadership and partnering with the county and moving forward and looking at this project that we've been talking about for a long time, and to finally see it come together, and it's happening. And I'm so proud of our county board. They took this on 4+ years ago, started talking about it. We started to come forward with our public safety committee and give them the information, that we had, and it started to build from there. And then, talking individually with county board members, and then, Lance Pummel putting together the ad hoc committee, and Laura Valenstein, overseeing the committee, and just the steps that have been taken. I'm very proud of them, very proud of being part of that team, and, the community should be proud of them. It wasn't an easy decision. It really wasn't, and you're talking a lot of money, and when inflation hit us, it hit us hard, and that hurt. Personally, it hurt to see that, that this project now has gone up so much money. But again, the proud part of it is our county board didn't walk away from it. We identified the needs. They did not change. They're only going to grow, and we're committed to it. And so hopefully in about 2 years, we'll be opening a new facility that I'll just say personally I'm proud to be part of. But I'm not an individual that made this happen. It was a team effort that goes on so many different levels, that there's so many people that I've met along the way that had questions, and we talked about them, and their community members, and we discussed it. I'm sorry there's a need for a jail. We have to have one. But the facility we have now is not working, and we can go on and on about it, because I think every month we talk about it, but it's happening now. And again, Taylor, thank you for being there. Thank you for the support. It was televised, and thank you to our county board and everybody that was there. If I went down a list of names, I think we'd run out of time. But you know who you are, and I deeply, deeply show so much gratitude for everybody.
I don't know if we spend enough time talking about the great job that Mayor Blazer has done. And I don't have to brown nose the guy. The guy and I, we're already friends. But I generally, taking over during a pandemic, never have done something like that before, and the work he has done and the way he has worked with this community. Just a great job, great work. The part of the other thing that I don't think that does get a little lost in the shuffle with this is the amount, all the people that have made this happen. And I appreciate you taking time with that and everything and getting into it. I've been a little, I don't want to say surprised, because I'm not really surprised by this community anymore. Like, you guys have shown who you are. We got good people around here, got informative people that ask questions, a lot of interested things and stuff like that. And when we first started talking about this, there was a lot of feedback about it, and most of it leaning towards uncertainty. I don't hear any of that anymore. In fact, the only time that I hear it being brought up is on a positive or just getting an update on different, things going on. One of the things I appreciate, and I think this community is like a lot of rural American communities, really good at moving on. Like, you might have this thing that you're gonna fight for, you're gonna do this, and this. Once it's done, it's kind of all right, let's move on. What's the next thing? That's kind of a Midwest mentality thing too, but it's certainly noticeable around here. Choosing your battles, and moving on from them instead of just sitting here. I'm never gonna let this go, this kind of thing. I'm curious to know, and we got to go to commercial break, so we can come back with this if you want.
Sure.
How it goes with the moving process. All of us have moved, and we all understand the joys and loves and fun of moving. Getting that in between time or anything, or my daughter and her fiance just bought a house, and that in between of where do we go? While we're waiting for this place to be bought out and moving into the new place and all that. I'm really curious of how that's going to go.
Sure.
And I can't imagine you know a ton about it right now. You got to work this out as you get closer to it. But if you don't mind, when we come back, I'd like to get to a little of that.
That'd be great.
We have Sheriff Becker. We have Mike Weiberg with us. We have Taylor from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media all with us, and we'll be back with more Morning Magazine at WFHR. Welcome back, everybody, to Morning Magazine here at WFHR, locally grown radio. We got 2 stations here, but and that's all right. We are having some fun. We're having some conversation, talking about a number of different things here with our Wood County Sheriff's Department, and a big thank you to them and Wisconsin Rapids Community Media being in today. We were talking about the jail and the moving process, and how what is all involved in that.
Sure.
Do all the prisoners, are they just going to stand in orderly fashion and just walk over? No, I'm joking. I'm kidding, of course. But as far as like actual the moving process, you don't have to get too detailed for me. But I am kind of curious of like how much is there going to be a lot of newer things in there, so you don't have to bring them over. A lot of that.
Yeah. Basically, you have to look at it this way. There's going to be really nothing as far as equipment-wise coming over to the new facility.
That's what I'm saying.
Everything is going to be built brand new.
Mm-hmm.
So any stuff in there that is not going to be recycled or anything like that. So what we're going to do is early next year we'll put together a transition team. That will basically be comprised of many corrections officers, some supervisors, and then you start putting together a plan. Policies are going to have to change. The style of the jail is different. It's a pod style it's safer than the linear style that we currently have. So a lot of that stuff is going to be ongoing and will be part of the development and not just of policies, but when questions come up with, as this facility is being built, we can address them with the people that are going to be working, that in that facility. So that'll be the first start of it, and that'll be ongoing through the whole project until it's completed. And then once the project's done, as far as once we're operational, it's going to open, then we'll move all the inmates there. We'll take that and move them all over there. And then the other thing that I'm excited to always talk about is those contracts with Wapaka and Adams County are done. All right, we will not be paying them any more money for their own revenue to house our inmates. All right. The more and more I think about that, the more upset I get, because I just look at the money that we've given to other counties to fund not only their budgets but their projects. Adams County is going under some renovation right now, and I can guarantee that some of the money that we've provided them housing our inmates has gone towards those projects. Same with Wapaka. So those people will be all brought back to our facility once we are operational and all the inmates are under one roof here in Wood County. The next step will be at some point, after that 2 years, we'll probably demo the current jail. There's just not much use for it. Maybe we can get some training out of it, but
I was really curious about that part of it, and I didn't want to get ahead of ourselves here if that had been even in the project plans or not. But we see this all the time. A new football stadium gets built, they tear down the old one, turn it into a parking lot, that kind of thing. Are there any plans yet for the old jail?
Well, it'll get demoed.
It will. Okay.
Yeah, we looked at it to say, okay, can the county use it for something else? Can we remodel it? Can we, have some more space for another department to move in there? And it can't. That was part of the reason why we had to move forward. It was built in the 50s, added on in the 80s, and just a lot of the upkeep if we continue to stick money in it, then why build a new facility?
Yeah.
And that was part of it.
Yeah.
So we looked at it, and it's just going to be cheaper to essentially demolish it. And then that'll give the county an opportunity in several years. Do we want to build onto the courthouse, or are we going to keep this parking? So let's give the county, the future leaders, the opportunity to have some land downtown that they could build upon. We have River Block, but maybe there's a department or something that wants to move over there. Who knows in 20 years what services the county is going to be providing and what space they need. Parking is going to be an issue, so I know there's going to be expanded parking there once the jail's down. But as brought up about training, Midstate brought up a good point. Hey, is there an opportunity to train, new corrections officers, current corrections officers? And I think we'll have an opportunity to do that before we take the building down. But that's kind of the game plan right now. It's it'll be a transition team put together. We'll work with them with a project manager and the building process to have those, our folks involved as we move forward. And I'm excited once the building becomes operational, just to get everybody moved over there. I'm really excited for our staff. They deserve this. I mean, they've been working in a very tough environment, for a long time, and a lot of people are sticking it out just to get into a new facility to see what a state-of-the-art facility is going to look like and work in. We lost some really good corrections officers, though, just because they had it. It's a tough environment. It's not an easy job being a corrections officer, and I understand that. I didn't come from that side in my career, but I've learned it the last 4 years more than I ever have before, and this is something that they deserve. And again, get back to our county board. I can't say it enough. You put politics aside, and that's where you look at Shane and all our local leaders, that if they truly invest or prove that they're a team player, they're not an individual. They have the willingness to work with each other, and it doesn't matter what side you're on. That only makes us a better community, and when we have some great leaders, and Shane's one of them.
When it comes to this topic, we'll certainly be talking more about it as we go along here and everything, but it is appreciative to have these updates, to have this conversation about it. You just don't know what can come out of it, and that's kind of where I wanted to wrap up, because it's so many of these things that we're planning, that you guys are planning, and different things are great. I think a lot of the benefits of this jail are going to happen when in the moment, organically. We're going to figure things out. We're going to see statistics, year afterwards, and those kind of things, where it's much more evident of what people have been talking about for 30 years, of why this has been needed, why we've been wanting to do this. So, it is, especially to the percentage of people that complain about money or something like that. I will just counter you with what Sheriff Becker was saying before about housing inmates out of city and the cost that takes. If you took everything we've spent on that and put it in, it started right away from the beginning of investing in, having a rainy day fund for a new jail, we probably would have already had this.
Absolutely. If you'd looked at it, if we'd have done it 10 years ago, it would have saved us a lot of money. 20 years ago, and I understand the county board at the time, they knew that there was a need, all right, but it just didn't feel right at that time to pay for it. I get it, but it was going to happen eventually, and it did, and we're there, we're moving forward, and I'm just proud to be part of the team. Yeah.
Looking forward to talking to Mike a little bit more. Before we do that, I know. Sorry, Mike. I'm not helping you here at all. I do know that there is a verdict hanging out there right now that we're waiting on, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to touch on that.
Yeah, real stressful for everybody involved, but the jury has it. But I'll just comment on two individuals that were part of the sheriff's department for a long time. Great leaders. Personal mentors of mine, and I know Mike's too, and many, many other people, Bob Lewandowski and Dave Lowdy. They were investigators at the time when this tragedy happened. And, Bob, has been an investigator most of his career. In fact, for most of it, he was, overseeing all the investigators, was my direct supervisor for quite some time. Actually, they both were, but going over the case, I never was part of investigating. This happened way before my time.
Would you mind explaining what the case, just real quick? It's
a homicide case from 1984 that Eleanor Roberts was murdered in her home in the town of Saratoga.
Just in case anybody out there wasn't familiar. Thank you.
Yeah, and that we obviously responded to. Previous Sheriff Tom Reichert was one of the first responding deputies there, and like I said, Bob Lewandowski was one of the investigators, and the crime lab wasn't available at the time. I mean, they existed, but they couldn't come because they had some other cases going on, and Bob processed the scene, and Bob pulled out the palm print of the suspect, John Sarver himself. Wow. On his own training, and I was telling him that last night when we were kind of just going over some things, and I'm like, that's impressive. It doesn't happen very often where you have your own smaller law enforcement agency going out processing a homicide scene, a murder scene, and that's just something Bob, needs to be recognized for. Something that happened that long ago. And then Dave Lowdy, also investigator at the time, was interviewing the suspect on a different crime, and then just got that gut feeling, hey, this person could be involved, and then having that instinct and that feeling, you can't teach that.
Nope.
And he did, and then that developed a suspect from there. And unfortunately, it didn't get charged until a couple of years ago when the arrest was made. But it is what it is right now. We're there. The jury has it. Hopefully, we'll get a verdict here soon, and go from there. It's been over a week-long trial. I really got to give the jury a lot of credit. This doesn't happen very often, where you have to give over a week of your life to for justice.
Yeah.
So. So we'll see what happens. But, and Bob and Dave were the only two people that were part of this case. I know the Sheriff's Department has continually worked on it. A big shout out to Jay Schroeder, one of my personal friends who's not, working at the Sheriff's Department anymore, but he took it on and just has that personal, I talked to him this morning about it and reminisced about the victim's family, and Bob Lewandowski is saying, sitting with the Roberts family, and you can imagine what they're going through and how many years that they've waited just to get to this moment. No matter what the verdict is, they finally got here. But, you talk about the family that has lived through this for so long, again, with Jay and other people. Like I said, there's a lot of people that are involved in it, and appreciate the Attorney General's office for taking this on and moving forward with it. So we'll see what happens.
It's a real credit to everybody that works in cold case and people that work on not only in that category, but just anything in that world, anything involving that. I mean, I would go even as far as to say a crime committed a year ago, oftentimes can be. It just is such a flowing thing and just constant everyday new stuff and new things on the desk, new things to take care of. Even something that is a year old, let alone something like this. To hear about this excellence of work that was done on this, even if you're not that interested in it, I would hope that you would look at that and just say, that's just some dang good work. That's impressive right there, let alone if you care. And certainly if you care about justice, which I think a lot of us do, hopefully, still. As I said that, I lost more and more confidence in that sentence, but hopefully there's more and more people that do.
Yeah, I know what you meant. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Now, should we make Mike work now?
Yes,
okay, all right, Mike. It's time, Mike. It's time. We got only like 15 minutes left, so I can't make you talk that much. Okay. Mike, why did you, what in you made you want to get into doing this volunteering and being a part of this?
To be honest with you, I did it as a resume builder.
Right on.
I don't know, 25 plus years ago. I was trying to get into the Sheriff's Department. And a really good friend of mine, Rick Hurst, who was an FTO at the field training officer at the time. I rode with him numerous times in the squad car. Told me about rescue. I really didn't know anything about it. And I joined, and the rest is history. I never left. And I even changed careers. Since then, I stayed on the Sheriff's Rescue and eventually worked my way up to the Director of Sheriff's Rescue.
Right on.
But I still do everything there. I don't ask anybody to do anything else that I don't do. I take the truck, I respond to calls, and spend a lot of time at Sheriff's. I just like it. Kind of do odd jobs that nobody else does.
Yeah.
I work on squad cars and scuba dive and evidence recovery, body recovery.
Mike,
jack of all trades, master of none.
It's
Well said, Mike. Well said.
Now, so I appreciate not only the honesty. I really think it's important that you mentioned that about the reasons that first got you going. There's a lot of people that start things that way. I had a good friend growing up who joined, I want to say Greenpeace or something, and still continues to work there. But he did it just to get a better college resume and things. And now there's a love affair of his that he's continued to do for like 2 decades now. I think a lot of things can start that way.
I think it opens the doors for numerous people. We've had people go on to full-time firefighting, full-time law enforcement, and then I got a handful of guys that are in the same boat as me. They never left. They've got guys that work at the highway shop, guys that work at Solaris, wherever. They just love doing this, and they get paid. We don't get paid on scene, on call. Sometimes it's minimal if you don't have a call a week, which is actually the best case scenario. It's not much effort. Besides, we meet every Tuesday and either have training or a business meeting, and sometimes you might sit on the side of the road and do a crime scene containment for 8 hours. And people we trade off because everybody's got a full-time job. We've got men and women, different. Some are just housewives, whatever, but they have families and stuff like that. And obviously, we know it's second, but volunteerism with the departments here in town. I mean, you got basically Marshfield and Rapids. The only time that's paid, everybody else is volunteer. All the agencies, all the different jurisdictions are all volunteer.
Ballpark, not a specific, but ballpark. About how many people are we talking?
On just rescue?
Yeah.
Right now, I think our roster is like 16.
Nice.
I have equipment for 20, and everybody fluctuates.
Yeah.
Sometimes people go on, different people move or whatever.
It's just impressive to think of that many people doing this kind of thing.
Yeah. And over the years, I got 2 filing cabinets full of files of people that have been on rescue over the years, probably a couple hundred easy.
And as mentioned, and as we can imagine, there's certain people that are going to do it for a while and then leave. What has kept you there?
I just like, helping somebody out that can't help themselves, and I like being involved with the Sheriff's Department, giving back to the community. I have a lot of friends, whether it's, different fire departments, law enforcement, and it's just kept me going over the years. I mean, when he tells me how many years I worked there, I probably quit counting at 20, and I really don't know when I actually started, but yeah.
You should see his picture when he started. He looks a little different.
Yeah.
More hair. Didn't need glasses back then.
Father time is undefeated.
Yeah, right.
We've all heard the phrase, at least the majority of us have heard. My papa used to say this about my nana all the time. They don't make them like her anymore. That kind of thing. I've always thought of that as just a nice phrase, but it's become more and more a concern to me in this chair and doing this job for many years. Whether it's guests we have on a morning magazine or representatives that I'm talking to in the political world or anything like that, I've had something that's been in my head for about a month now and I can't let go of. Who are going to do these jobs going forward? Because, and it actually stems from talking with you, Sheriff Becker, from the beginning of talking about, what you and I talked about showing the human side of you guys and reminding our world that these are human beings behind the badges and these things. And even over to Mike Hittner and having the Historic Point boss on and all the great work that they do over there keeping history alive, but who's going to do it when they go? Not so much that kind of job, but with your guys' jobs that you do, politicians and that, we're getting more and more as a society where all we're doing is tearing these people down and shredding these people and talking about the negative. Every little thing, it's negative. And it's not just one-sided, it's both sides. You can't have a commercial break nowadays and not see an attack ad against a Republican and then an attack ad against a Democrat right back to back of each other.
Right.
And I've had listeners tell me, I don't know who to vote for. Like, it looks like everybody's bad. Like, and disengaging, which is the most dangerous part of this, of pulling away. And it got me thinking more and more about, well, who's going to do these jobs? Because you've got a couple of generations of kids growing up, and all they're seeing is the negative.
Right.
Why would I want to do that job? All anybody does is talk trash about that person. All anybody does is tear that person down. This is dangerous. We need people. Sheriff Becker's amazing, but Father Time is undefeated. Again, you're only going to be able to do this job for so long.
Hair or the lack of hair?
Who's going to take over? And this is a concern to me, and I'm not alone on this one. So when we talk about these things, and you guys share all this stuff that you did, and especially the stuff that you shared there, Mike, I think it is really important because maybe it's the last naive bone in my body, I do believe they still do make mics. They make Sheriff Beckers. I believe they're still out there. I think the problem is they don't hear good stories enough. They don't hear enough reasons to do these things. Now, there are people, like I said, like yourself, Mike, that just are going to do this job no matter what. They're called to it, even if they're not paid, which, my God, we don't give enough respect to in this community, and it's not in this world, in this society, to volunteerism and things like that. But when it comes to, like, the next people taking over, why would I not want to be an influencer instead of doing this? I mean, they don't get shredded as nearly as much or what have you and everything. We need to get better about these things. One of the ways we're doing that is by guys like you putting up with guys like me, Mike, and coming in and talking about this stuff and everything else. So I really do appreciate the time on a level that I don't think even we can understand right now.
No, it's a great point. You focus on the positive. I think that's really important going through my election, which wasn't just my election, it was my family's election, it was my team's election, and all that, and we said right away, you focus on the positive. And I wish that everybody would believe in that, and I just tell people that, no matter what side you're on, there really shouldn't be a side. It's
No.
You have to look at your community leaders that have the willingness to work with anybody that can help all of us, no matter what side you're on.
Yeah.
If you have somebody that, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or independent, if you prove that you have the willingness to work with anybody that benefits the majority, I'll vote for you every day. And that's what it's hard. Like you said, you look at the attack ads, and what's been frustrating for me as sheriff is, now you're pulling the sheriff's aside, and then it's like, and I know a lot of these people. It's like, but it is what it is right now, and I think that's the time that we live in. I look at the money coming in from outside of the state to influence our elections is very concerning. Even at local elections, not in Wood County, but you go to Portage County, and I know that just for an assembly position, somebody got a lot of money from a PAC that's not from Wisconsin. I know I can speak on my election on, we did fundraise, and it was local, or family or something like that, where this is a different level of seeing an influence or somebody trying to influence our elections here, and that concerns me.
And the only people that win are the people making the ads. They're the only ones that win. The only people who win, are rolling in this stuff and wanting to continue to do these things and everything. The majority of politicians you hear from, you talk to, are not in favor of this because they get it. They are talking to constituents. They, at least the ones that are embedded and really engaged in their communities and everything, understand that every community member, every voter is telling them, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of getting 11 o'clock last night. I get a text from somebody about voting for them. I'm like, what the what, man? Like, it's 11:30 at night. What are you doing here? Even people that you would vote for, it's starting to turn people off of just the voting process or that. And again, I can't think of many things that are as dangerous as that. It's people getting disengaged and not caring.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because right now I'm just, hey, I want to get out of town, come back on Tuesday and say, all right, because you turn the TV on and I like YouTube and watching any videos that come up. The ads are on there now. It's like, I can't escape. I'll just go to Netflix and just, you know what I mean? And it's a matter of time there.
Especially doing this job. Like, I can't wait to get a break from it and need a palate cleanser and that kind of thing.
And you're exactly right. Who's benefiting from it? The people making the commercials, because they're well done.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of money put into those things.
And think of that money that's being put into that and putting it aside to help people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, really? How many millions of dollars are we talking about?
It's almost unconscionable the way it is. You would love to think that you would love to be able to say it's criminal, but I feel a little cringy saying that around you, sir. I don't want to give you more work here. I don't want to.
Yeah, please don't.
But I will say, just to wrap up, I will say on November 9th, you're still going to live here.
Yep.
Whether you're Guy 1 or not, wherever you are in the country, there are still going to be other Americans living there that felt opposite of what you did and everything. We've got to be able to live together. We've got to be able to move along and continue. That is not a bunch of kumbaya stuff. That's the world. Yep. That's adulthood. That's being an adult. Grow up. I'm sorry, but I mean, act your age and quit. It's dangerous to me and scary to me when I see children and young teenagers and young adults acting more like adults than people in my age group. Like, that's part of the thing, concern for all this.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Got a couple minutes left. Where would you like to wrap up, sir?
Oh, with Mike.
Okay, let's continue to put Mike on the spot. Mike.
I will defer to you, Shawn.
Well, that's fine. I'll just talk about you.
The last 3 minutes of the show is just you two deferring back to each other. I love it. I like it.
No, I will talk about Mike. Again, great friend. He very humble. He oversees a rescue unit that the county needs, and again, great friend. And I appreciate your friendship and everything you've done for not just me as an individual, but you've done for the department and the community. So it's always going to be appreciated. I'm glad to have you. I sprung this on him like a half hour before we came on the show.
Nice.
He didn't want to do it, but no, he.
Oh, really appreciate you being here, then, Mike. That's great.
It's easy to do when you got great leadership. It's not like a lot of work. So
it's a great thing to know. Thank you for that. When I imagine we're always looking for more volunteers for something like this.
Yes.
If people are curious, they want to know more about it. First up, is there anything they should know right on the surface before they even reach out to you? Like any certain, like other than the basic requirements and stuff of being over 18 and that.
Yeah, we pretty much take anybody, or not take anybody, but we will interview somebody. Anybody that's over 18 has a desire. They can go to the Sheriff's Department, courthouse, go to the Sheriff's Department, get an application. It's just a basic county application, but it just says rescue on it. And then once that's filled out, one of the full-time investigators will do a background on it. And obviously we don't want anybody to, have a criminal history or anything. Because sometimes they're dealing with, crime scenes and stuff like that. But you get it. But, they fill out the application. Then we do a simple interview. And if we like them, then they're put on, and we get them their equipment and stuff. And so I'm not going to, there's no money involved here. Matter of fact, you're on this, and that's any department besides Rapids and Marshfield. You're on one of these departments, it costs you money. You know, I mean, people are gas money. They're buying some of their own equipment, whatever. But I've made a lot of lifelong friends being on this group. And I cherish it forever, and I think it's one of the greatest organizations around, along with all the other volunteer departments in this town here. It's awesome. It's what makes the emergency services go around, quite frankly.
I talk to people all the time about volunteering, and many people out there that want to volunteer, Meals on Wheels or things with the United Way and that kind of stuff. And there's those conversations. Then there's the person that you can tell they're looking to do more. They want to make a true impact. There's people who are trying their hardest to volunteer or put into their community, but they got like an hour or two to spare, and so that's where like a Meals on Wheels comes really in handy and that kind of thing. But then there's something like this that's on another level. So if people want to learn more about this, who should they contact? Where can they find that out?
They can call the courthouse anytime. I mean, we have an open house. I mean, anybody can come just even check us out. We meet every Tuesday. We have we're right next to the highway shop on 17th Avenue. We meet every Tuesday. We're usually, everybody's just about there by 6:30, 6:30. And even if they just want to come check out the equipment or see what we're about, we train right there, unless we're going off site, like in the woods or at the lake or something like that. But 90% of the time we train right there too. We got a small little building there, and they can come anytime, open policy, and they come, or they can call me anytime, or call the Sheriff's Department, and they'll give my email address out and stuff like that, and away we go.
That is Mike Weiberg. Thank you so much for being here today, Mike, and thank you for everything you put into the community. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Sheriff Becker, always appreciate the time. You stay safe and strong out there. Thanks a lot for being here. Yeah, and of course, Taylor and our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, big shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Be sure to type in YouTube in your search bar, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. Subscribe to their page. Keep up to date on the great work that they are doing. We'll be back with more Morning Magazine tomorrow right here in this time slot at WFHR, locally grown radio.